Hey, Cullen, you got that Reliant case on? You got that pulled up? You remember this? Where you at, Scott? Remember this? You'll remember this.
It depends.
This used to be like the Scot Mendenhall theme song.
Good to see you.
He's got it. Hold on a second.
It was the thing. I have no idea what that is.
You'll know it just as soon as you hear it.
Yeah, it's, am I not on?
I think we're going somewhere, right?
Yeah. I can sing it. I have no idea. Yeah. Yes. Guys got skills.
Yeah.
Can we see that again?
What?
Everybody get your phones out. Your pastor's going to dance really quick.
That was it, man. That was the song.
It was. That's a long time ago.
Maggie, that grew up in the youth group. My daughter Maggie grew up in the youth group. Listened to that song 10,000 times because you played it. You know what I mean? She knows every word of every anyhow. So hey, this is our first youth pastor, Scot Mendenhall, way back in the early 2000s.
2001.
Was that when it was?
Yeah.
We just cut the floor out here. We were growing. And we thought, man, we need youth pastors. Some young people coming, and let's look for a good youth pastor.
Did you find him then?
A fella came from Chicago area in a fancy little sports car. Got out of the car. I looked at him and went. My first thought was, no.
Yeah, that's because you were like, this guy ain't country.
Yeah,
that's what it was.
I'm like, yeah, you're going to tell us a story, but I'm looking for a worker guy. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking for a guy that I can, you know what I mean, pour some wisdom into. Look at him going, ain't that guy. Anyhow, Scott came along. It was such a blessing, so amazing. Scott has a work ethic and just ideas and energy. And the youth group here grew so much that when they had the youth group upstairs, they were jumping and ceiling tiles below were popping out of the ceiling. So much so, we said, hey, we got to get all these kids, because we had hundreds of kids. We've got to get these kids out of this building. They're going to come through the floor.
Yeah.
So we went over and rented LifeNet, the skating rink building, right? And Scott ended up having youth service over there. That's the first time we kind of split. And he was doing, for a couple of years, I think he had 300 or 400 kids at one point going over there, a bunch of kids.
Yeah, we had hundreds.
Lots of kids. Anyhow, he was over there, and you know what's crazy about all? Just the thing, Justin and Lachelle were in that group.
Yeah.
Married. All these years pass. They're our youth pastors right now. And he's pastor now that church, same church building. It's just a crazy wild road.
It's crazy.
It's a wild road, man. I was in my 30s. You were in your 20s.
Yeah.
You know?
You did tell me, I'll never forget in the office over there one day, because I started running marathons when I was here, and you thought that was a little wild. You're like, what are you doing? Why would you do that? That's a bit dumb. He goes, well, you know, it's okay. One day you'll be out of shape. When you hit your 35s, you'll be out of shape, and you'll be, and here I am, 45.
Yeah.
I think I look a little fit. I don't know.
Well, maybe I was talking about me.
You said that. I did not say that. No.
Anyhow, we're glad to have you, man. Are you going to tell Peter Pan's story? Please don't tell my Peter Pan story.
You brought this up. I was going to tell a different story, but you brought it up. They want to know it.
No.
They'll want to know.
In the first story, he told him, like, my worst embarrassing story. I'm over here going, one time I peed my pants. And,
no, he did. She's giving a face of like, what? Yeah, your pastor peed as an adult man.
I don't know if Charity and Caleb even know this, but I came.
Is that who you were?
Yeah, marriage counseled them. And I
in pee pants.
I peed myself.
Hours before.
And they asked me, why are you leaving your coveralls on?
Yeah.
I said, well, I really don't just show you down my legs here. But I got locked out of his house. Yeah. And we were working on a house he had, and I got locked out of the house and had to go. And I'd ripped my pants. Can I tell it?
You're doing great.
Yeah.
Apparently.
I'd ripped my pants. It was so cold that day, I took some duct tape and just wrapped it around me.
And I remember him doing it. I said, hey, you're getting it all up on your hip and stuff. It's not going to work out.
It was so cold out that day. I was in coverall. that big rip was letting a lot of cold air in, right?
It was cold.
So I just duct taped myself up. Then I got locked out of the house. Then I had to go to the bathroom, bad. And I don't know if you understand men or not, but men have a timing, you know what I mean? And when I couldn't get unlocked fast enough.
Out of the bibs and the house.
But I had to be at the church to counsel. Caleb and Cherry were getting married. I had to counsel them marriage. So I came to the church in my bib overalls. And they said, "Aren't you hot?" "No, I'm wet."
Yeah. Oh, Mark, I love you. You are awesome. And that's a true story. I mean, he left out some of the details. I mean, it's like, I was trying to give him some godly wisdom, like, I don't think you should use all that duct tape. Some of it was because it was mine. Two, I was thinking about the future a little bit, going, that's not going to bode well when you got to pee. It's going to be a problem. And so, yes, he was 30, probably 5 years old, and he peed his pants. Anyone else pee your pants when you're 35 years old? There's no hands, Mark, going up in the building. You are very special. So, well done. You've done something many have not done at 35. And I remember I was talking to men, not women. I get it. I am married to a wonderful woman, Holly. I think she's the one that landed the job for me. She's amazing. We have 8 children. And some of you know that. Some of you, that's the first time you're here, and you're like, wow, you have 8 children. And then you immediately go through a series of questions, and we hear it all the time. It's complete. Strangers ask this stuff in Costco, or people that attend our church that we started in the Twin Cities, Minnesota. It's always the same series of questions, okay? And there's a picture of our 8 children outreach we did for the church. We rent out or we pay for the entire skating rink so the city can come and skate for free. And then we get to meet them and we invite them to church. And it's really cold in Minnesota, if you didn't know that. The average temperature is 23 degrees. It gets down to negative 50 for weeks at a time. It's ridiculous, but I love it. So that's my crew. 2 girls and 6 boys. 2 of my boys are with me, Legend and Epic. They look like me. A lot of you were calling them mini-me's. It's just true. And then I have 2 elders, or our leadership team from Unlocked Church. That's a church we pastor in Minnesota. They're with me, and I wanted them to come and see Renewed Strength. I wanted them to come meet Mark. Some of it will explain some of the way I do ministry, because they're always scratching their head like, what are you thinking about doing? Like, you're going to buy property yourself to do ministry from. That doesn't make sense. So I saw a guy in Ohio, his wife Jamie and him did it, and they did it so well. They bought a barn, they restored it, they have a gymnasium up top, they do Christmas parties. They would put people in it to stay for a while. I was like, yeah, well, I want to do stuff like that because we want to stay debt-free as a church, and the church is a little church. We're a baby church. We're growing, but the church isn't in a spot to buy land. And I'm like, well, I'll just sell everything I got. Holly and I will, and we'll just go buy land, and then the church can use it. And I learned that from Mark. That wasn't a new idea. That wasn't like, oh, I just doing something different. It was like I watched Mark do it for 8 years while I was employed here, and I was like, that's the way to do ministry, where you partner with people. We say it this way. We say partner with people to unlock their God-given greatness, doing life with people, creating community, creating where you know each other's stuff. It's messy people helping messy people. It's not perfect people helping messy people. It's like, no, I got a mess. I know a mess because I am messy, so I recognize you're messy. I can help you, not judging. And so I learned all of those things from Mark and Jamie. They have been so fundamental in the trajectory of my ministry and my marriage. Because when we got hired here, when we came for the interview, it was our 1-year anniversary. And they had communicated to us, because we met at a Bob Evans beforehand, like they were vetting us a little bit, like, are these guys shady or whatever. So we met some middle of nowhere Bob Evans place. I've never eaten at a Bob Evans since. I don't think I've seen one since, except for in Ohio. I'm sure there are other places, but to me, Bob Evans is reserved for Ohio. We were taking Joey, one of the elders, and my 2 boys. We were down at the Air Force Museum area to get packets for the Air Force race, marathon that was happening. And I'll go, Joey, in Legend and Epic, there's a Bob Evans. They're like, what is that? I've never seen one. I was like, I got interviewed at one in the middle of nowhere between here in Chicago, probably somewhere in Indiana. Met Tim and Chris and Mark and the wives, they all came, and we're sitting and talked for hours at a little tiny breakfast spot, Bob Evans. And they were like, hey, we'd love to have you come out to our location. And so we come out here, and they put us up in their house. Mark and Jamie do at the time. The sports car we had, like, it's real kind of, he says, it's a sports car. It was a neon. A neon. That is not a sports car. I appreciate him trying to, build my ego up that I had a sport. It's a neon, okay? The only worst decision that I had ever made with a vehicle is I went from a neon to a PT Cruiser. I have repented from that decision in my life. But at the time, I needed to move the student ministry equipment around, and I could afford a PT Cruiser, but I couldn't afford a truck or an Explorer. And I'm from Illinois, Chicago area, and I was just like, a truck's too country for me. I'm not buying a truck. I'm not going to do it. I can't do that. I was like, I love Ohio, but I'm not going to become an Ohioan. I'm not a Buckeye. I'm not a Buckeye. I know you guys love your Buckeyes, and I know you always try to feed people Buckeyes. I always thought it was weird. It was like, what is a Buckeye? You've never had a Buckeye? Now, I've done that to other people. If I brought them into, you got to have a Buckeye. Why? Because it's just what you feed people. If you've never had one, you got to have this Buckeye. And they're like, what is a Buckeye? I don't even know what a Buckeye is. It's a worthless nut. Okay, there you go. I have a necklace that Chris Livingston gave me that hangs in my house. That it's a Buckeye necklace. And it's got red, gray, and white between the Buckeyes. I held on. Yeah, it's Ohio State for sure. He loved it. But I have that because Chris Livingston and I, man, we have good stories. He once broke my foot. We filmed these videos that were called Donkey Dumb as I Wanted to Be, and we did really dumb stuff. So you didn't have to. Many of you know Chris's story. He was Savannah Slim, a wrestler, and he had this idea, hey, I've been called out of retirement. You want to come down and film me wrestling you? I was like, yeah, man. Yeah. He was a rather big guy. I mean, I might have put on a little bit of muscle since then. I was teeny tiny. I was like, the best way I could describe when I first got hired here is like an olive on a toothpick. That was me running around here, big head, little body. Okay, I got to wear baggy clothes so I look like I got a little stature to myself. So Chris and I go to some place felt like a shady place in Springfield to do this wrestling. And he tossed me around the ring. I should have played the video. He tossed me around the ring, breaks my foot. He knocks me out 3 times. One of the times, I can't see, but I can hear him running at me. And he hits me across my chest. And he flips me in the 360, and I land on the ground. Now I can't breathe. I can't see. And all I know is he's told me, I'm going to jump on top of you. And he did. And I survived. And that day I realized that wrestling's real. That story is a pretty big highlight. Another one is I got the opportunity to ride bulls while I was out here. Some of this. Mark alludes to that it's all me. I just is dumb enough to do these things, and everybody just wanted to watch it. Okay, they were like, "How stupid is this guy?" And I filmed it. And so Brian goes, "Hey, I got some baby bulls. You could ride them. Then Ribbon Road. We could do, what is it, PBA? Is that what it is, right?" He's like, yeah, we'll make some kind of corral. You hop on the back of these things, and then we'll film you. And I was like, okay, what's the goal? Like, ride them 8 seconds. 8 seconds is like supposed to be good. And I was like, all right. So I hop on. I fell off that thing so fast. Like they're like, what is this guy doing? What is this surfer-looking dude doing on me? He don't got cowboy boots, no hat on, no cowboy hat, no straw out of his mouth, nothing. He doesn't have a weird accent. He talks really fast. This guy does not belong on my back. And he just launched me off. We did it multiple times. Eventually, we wore out the cows so much that they just ate grass while I just sat on them. Not only did I go 8 seconds, I went 8 minutes on them. Take that, PBA. But all of those, those are, there's so many great memories attached here. when we were parked out, let me get back to the car situation with this neon/sports car. What made it look sportsy? It had a spoiler on the back, and the windows were tinted with mirror reflection. And the first day we're here, I come out to get something out of the car, and there's a buffalo staring at itself in my car. We don't have those in Chicago, okay? It's like I come back in. Jamie was, I don't know where Mark was at the time. He was probably building something. I'm like, Jamie, there's a buffalo staring at my car. What? What is a buffalo doing in our yard? She couldn't explain it. It's like, is this normal behavior here? It's like one of those, like when we're doing our checklist, do we want to live here? Wild buffaloes. No. Jamie, I can't understand her words. She talks too slow. No. Jamie and I, we went, for whatever reason, I don't know how the relationship between Jamie and I got, where it was big brother, big sister syndrome the whole time we worked here. She would prank me, and I said in the first service, I'm not an eye for an eye kind of guy. No, I'm going to detonate you. That's where we go. It's like, don't come back and bother me again. And so she puts a stinking diaper, like a literally poopy diaper, in my car. She blamed it on a good friend, Tracy, but I knew it was her. So I just went with one of our interns to her house, and I put her cars on blocks and took the tires off. She starts chucking eggs at me. But I was like, wait, you're hitting your car with the eggs too? So it's like bonus. I'm egging your car, but you're doing it. I'm taking your tires off. I'm taking a couple on the back here. I'll endure that. I mean, I ride bulls for 8 minutes. I can do anything. And so she's tossing eggs, and I just leave the car. Mark comes home. It was a Wednesday night. So he's done his service. I've done and Mark comes in and goes, that's between the two of you. Jamie, you sort that out. Mark never got in the middle of it. I was telling our elders that Jamie, at one time, I came over to the house, and she chased me with a hose in the middle of winter, like a water hose. Like she's chasing us. I don't even know what we did. I don't even know why. She's just like, they're coming over, I'm going to get at these guys. And so I say that with all love. Like, think about back when you're 21, 22 years old to your 30s, because that's the stage of life Holly and I were here, and how much you learn. And how much you grow, and if you're newlyweds in that season, how much your marriage is influenced by the surroundings. 22 years of marriage, and our foundation of our marriage was grown here in the great cornfields of Ohio, We learned how to do ministry together, but we had a great example between Mark and Jamie and watching them do ministry and reach people. You're here today because Jamie and Mark had a vision to start a church, and other people jumped on board saying, I can help you do that. You're here today because he had a crazy idea of like, oh man, we're outgrowing one floor. Let's saw out the floor and make a balcony. Who thinks like that? And then actually does it. Right? You have crazy ideas, and it was just watching Mark as I was here learning, going, hey, this guy, he isn't just a dreamer, he does it. It's like, I'm going to implement that in my life. I have a no-quit attitude. You tell me go through a wall, I'm going to figure that out. I might break my head open a few times, but that's okay. I'll figure out how to get through it. But I learned all of that from Mark. He is one of the best pastors I've had the opportunity to work under. And as I've traveled across the United States, one of the best pastors I've ever encountered. You have a special man and woman that leads you and prays for you. He gives up all kinds of stuff to serve you. If you're a first-time guest today, you come back and hear Mark, you're going to fall in love with here. If it's been a while, maybe you're a former student, you heard I was in town, and you're just like, I'm going to come back. Come back and help this community reach people in the community. This is a good place. This has forever changed my life, and it's part of my journey. And I'm not much of a backwards-looking guy. I don't spend much time doing that, but the last 48 hours I've been in Ohio, that's all I've been doing. Is going backwards, like, oh, I remember this, or in the skating rink. I remember so many students that we got a chance to pour into and to meet, but see so many of the parents here today, and your kids aren't here. I was telling one of the parents out there, when you say your child's name, I only remember them in high school, right? Because that's when I had them. And so when you say their name, like when somebody says Ethan, I'm going immediately back to when they were in high school, or Rachel, and I'm like high school, and it's like, that's me. That's who and now obviously they've moved on. Some of them have had kids, they have careers, and I don't know that version of them. I just picture that season of life I was here and learning so much and had the opportunity to lead so many amazing young people in a relationship with Jesus, and I don't look back and take that for granted. What an honor it was to do. And Mom and Dad, thank you to do that. Thank you for trusting Holly and I with your children. I hope we did well. I hope you can see some of those things we instilled in your kids of chasing God and the things we learned from Mark and Jamie to do. Thank you for those that volunteered with us. Kayla running the smallest sound system and always doing it so well, and being along the journey every time with us. And again, if you don't know those stories, ask some people. I thank you for all the compliments where everybody says you look the same. I'm pretty sure I'm older, I think. I mean, it's just a number. But I think I'm older, but all of you super kind saying, man, you look the same. Thank you. I've always said working with students is the fountain of youth. So if you want to get younger, volunteer in student ministry or kids ministry. It would be awesome. And the last thing, there's some things I learned that I didn't know I learned until I have become a dad. And like I said, we have 8 kids. And let me answer the questions that I started with a few minutes ago about the initial questions you all want to ask. Are they all Holly's and mine? Yes, they're all ours. Holly pushed them all out. The oldest is 16 or 15 years old, and the youngest is 4. Do not ask me anybody else's ages. I have no idea. It's always changing, okay? It's hard. So I just know the bookends. In between, they're just in there, okay? They're like 14 months apart is the biggest gap. So Holly was pregnant and nursing for 8 years straight. But there were things I watched a lot of the parents doing with your kids. And you can take that picture off behind me. Yeah, I think they see it's me here, just shorter hair. So the questions are they all ours? Yes, the next question is, do we know what causes them? We do not. We're really good at it, though. You want to tell us what it is? I'll try to understand. Then the next question is, do you have a TV in your bedroom? Because that must stop having children. Because that's the next question. I don't own a TV in my bedroom. Holly and I have always thought there's more things to be doing in our bedroom than watching a TV. I don't know. If you don't know what I'm saying, talk to Mark afterwards. He'll help you with that. So 8 kids are all ours. We love it. It's awesome. But I remember doing a tackle football game out in the field, and we invited dads to come, and Brian was the only one to show up. Did you hear me telling this story in the hallway? I'm going to tell it to everybody now. Because it is one of the moments, like I said, I will do that when I believe, were you like 45 probably when we did that, right? Like 45, so he's my age at the time. And I said to myself, watching him out there, he came out and played, and I was watching this. He's just a stud, okay? Like, he's so humble. Like, he comes out, and he pops his top, meaning his shirt off. It was a warm fall day. And I was like, dude, that guy's ripped. He's got a six-pack at 45. I mean, and I remember asking him that day, I was like, bro, what do you do? He's like, I'm on a farm. I throw hay bales. I throw cows. I throw tractors on my back. I was like, all right, this sounds like a regimen I need to be doing. But then I watched him tackling all of these students like they are cattle. Like he's just throwing his body around like no concern at all for his well-being. Just smashing them. I remember going, because I was a youth pastor and they didn't want to break children, so I was like, Brian, they're not cows. We got to tame her down a little bit. But he was out there not because he wanted to attack children, because his boy was out there playing, and he was like, I'm going to go out there and be with my son. And it has forever stood in my mind as when I was 45, that was one of the goals. To do that, be able to do that with my boys and my girls, be able, whatever they're into, me be into. And it didn't have to be football. It can be whatever they're into. Okay, I'm going to get into that. And again, and I could sit here as I see so many faces in here go, you are a part of Holly and I and our parenting and us doing ministry. We took so much from here and have run with it. And so thank you. Thank you to Mark and Jamie and Tim and Bev and Chris And Tina, thank you for saying yes to this crazy guy and letting us do ministry and pouring into us. I want to leave you with something that hopefully will change your life forever. It's not something that I just teach because it's like, okay, this is like just what you do as a pastor. What I teach, I believe 100%. I think that's the thing what's crazy about Mark, is when he's teaching you something, it's like he believes it 100%. He's not like, Lord, give this a shot, it might work. No, he knows what to teach you. And so what I want to do is I want to give you a biblical truth, meaning when I say biblical truth, I mean it's a truth that it's unwavering. It's not a version of. There's not like, well, I'd like to put an amendment to this. It's like, no, this is a truth that you need to do. Remember back when I was just talking about that bull riding scenario that we rode in 8 minutes? There might have been a little bit stretching the truth about the quality of bulls we were riding. If you saw the video, you'd recognize that like just out of the womb kind of bulls. They did not have pointy things coming off their heads. Maybe they had little knobs. But there was like the danger factor was like you could get stepped on. You know, that'd be a bad day. That wouldn't be ideal. But it was like, you know, a moment ago when I'm painting this picture, some of you probably pictured big bulls. You know, and like, whoa, this guy's intense. That was me stretching the truth a little bit, right? Like pulling the truth. There's a little bit of truth in there. I've taken creative liberty about the story. Now, the P-Pants story with Mark, that's 100% accurate. Nothing was changed for the protection of the identity of the individuals involved in that story. 100% accurate. The bull riding, we stretched the truth. I had never been, up until that time of the video, and had never been called a whippersnapper, except for in that day. Ryan called me a whippersnapper. To this day, I have no idea what that is. I felt like it was a term of endearment. But I have a feeling it has something to do with like, the elevator doesn't go all the way to the top floor. I think that's what he was saying, you know, like, he always says there's a fine line between stupidity and bravery, and he rides that line. He would always say that about me. But you guys all fed it, so it's all your fault. But what I want to do over the next few moments is give you something that I want you to stitch in the DNA of your life. So I see heaps of young people sitting up there. I see Jamie. I didn't see you. You're trying to hide from me. There she is. One of my favorite people. Like I see all the young people. This, what I'm about to download to you today, you need to stitch into your DNA. If you're a senior citizen, you get the discount coffee at whatever popular spot you want to go. I'm talking to you today. I want you to stitch it into your DNA. I want anybody that's a newlywed, this needs to be stitched to your DNA. I'm going to use some of my story from the last 8 months. I'm going to take 8 months of my life and I'm going to share what's been going on. Because of this, right? Like, man, a lot of excitement up here. Some of you are like, what's wrong with this guy? He's got ADD or something. I'm pretty sure I do. You all have told me that for years that I do. I only ran with what you told me. I did try to take a test once online, and I didn't finish it. So I figure that it's no good. In first service, Mark, as I was about to do it, he goes, all right, and he brought me this like lightsaber thing. He's like, here, you need to use this to change the slides. And I tried he's like, you got to click the fourth button. I'm like, all right. And I did it for 2 verses, and then I was like, I can't do it anymore. I'm over it, I said. I have now given the responsibility to my son, Epic. He has the lightsaber in his hand, and he's going to click as I go. He might be over it too. He's much like me. He might go, will it work back there? Does he need to be up here? It'll work. You got this, Epic. I believe in you. Don't fail me, baby, all right? Deal? Sure, he says. Mark asked me to do this, but I don't want to forget. He asked first service when I talk about Epic. Like, those are not nicknames. And he said, we'll give the kids names. The 8 are Legend, Epic, Icon, Historic. Those are our top 4. And then you have Inspire, Greatness, Courage, and Revolution. That's the last one. And their names, we wanted to give them names that would inspire them to do something with their life. Not be famous or wealthy, but earn their names, serve people. Because when you read through scriptures, Jesus could have said, I'm going to come in let you all serve me. But he said, I didn't come to be served, I came to serve. And we want to raise our young family to do that. Run around and earn your name. Because, think about it, no one calls himself a legend. I mean, if they do, that's arrogant. Most of the time, people look at the way somebody lived and said they did it like a legend. Or they were iconic in a generation. Or inspired. Man, they really inspired someone. No one goes, I'm an inspiring individual, you want to be around me. Right? No one wants to be around an individual that does that. So we're constantly trying to teach our kids, earn your name. Earn your name. Trust Jesus, earn your name. And so that has been where we came up with the names. And again, it's in my life. It's like my name's Scott. How boring is that? If you saw, I think it was spelled right. I only have one T. That's not a misspelling. My parents didn't have the forethought of thinking about social media when they named me. Because you try to Google me, you don't find me. Because you're going to go Scott. That guy doesn't exist. I'm sure he does somewhere, but Scot Mendenhall with one T, no one finds me. They really made my life miserable. Thank you, Mom and Dad, for doing that to me. They haven't really. Okay, so let me get to my last 8 months, and I want to set you up with, I understand you have a story in the last 8 months, year. Some of your stories I have seen through Facebook. Holly is a much better Facebooker than me. Actually, I don't get on Facebook, so she does it way better than me. And so she fills me in and all the things that you guys post of what's going on, those that pass away, those that are sick, all those things. So I'm aware of everyone having stories here. And some of those being very tragic. Today I'm going to share my story, not because it trumps any of yours. Or because I think I need a therapy session over the next 30 weeks. I flew to Ohio to visit you, to use you as my therapist. Oh, I'm going to tell you about a story because I got the microphone today. That's it. Okay? So hear me on that. I'm not trying to say I got better or worse than you. That's dangerous to do to anybody. You can't do that. That'll break you emotionally. But I want to give you a thing I've learned over the last 8 months that has really got me through, and that's stretching the truth. I want you to stretch the truth over not your situation, but your life. And if you do this, I promise you this. You will walk through the valley and the mountaintop and the journey in between with a little bit more ease that God is sovereign and He hasn't forgotten about you. But it's the application of this today that gives the impact. The knowledge of it does you no good. It's the impact. There's a big gap, I think, a lot of times as followers of Jesus. We know a lot of stuff, and we can quote a lot of stuff to people in culture that are doing wrong, but the application to yourself ain't happening. And so the results don't happen in your life because you're not applying Jesus principles in your life. Somebody today needs to hear that. The issue you got in your marriage isn't the other person. It's your lack of Jesus principles being executed. You're angry too much. You drink too much. You're too selfish. You gotta go back to Jesus principles and activate them. Application is key as a follower of Jesus, not knowing a whole bunch of things. Like living with Mark for a season and learning what tools did what and all those things, I learned a lot. But if I didn't apply the things he gave me, I couldn't build things now on my own. It was the application of the knowledge Mark gave me and building some calluses, let's be honest. And there's a lot of times when my hands were like, wow, why do they hurt, Mark? He's like, because you've never done any work. I'm like, make them stop, Mark. But it was the application of everything he taught me. I remember first Christmas here, for Christmas he bought me tools because I was borrowing all of his. He's like, here, I have one tool, and it's just, I don't even know the name of the tool. I could describe it to you. But Mark bought me like this tool that like opens and closes like pliers, but it's much bigger. It's adjustable, and it's got blue handles on it. Whenever I tell a child to go get that tool, I say, go get the Mark Hackworth tool, please. I don't know what it's called. It's the Mark Hackworth tool because it was a Christmas gift. I still have it, and it does everything. Like, it's a magic wand, really. I don't know if he prayed over it, anointed it with some kind of oil, and said, giving you this, I'm imparting something. I don't know. That's a joke. Okay, so you're like, is this guy for real? So we're going to go to Psalms chapter 62 to set up this idea. And then if we have time, I want to get to, and I didn't do it in the first service, I want to get to the illustration of this, okay? So we're going to get to Psalms chapter 62. You need to write this down because you need to memorize this, okay? It's on the screen. NLT, which means New Living Translation. That's the translation I'm here, whatever you got. You'll have to now make a translation while you read it, going, mine doesn't say that. It means the same thing, it's just you have a different version. 8 months ago, February 25th, I get a phone call at 4 a.m. I'm in Florida on a family vacation, and I get a phone call from my sister, hysterical on the phone, like losing her mind, and she says, he's gone, he's gone, he's gone. And I'm trying to decipher what she's talking about. She has dogs, she's pretty attached with them, and what she's trying to communicate is her husband just passed away in her house, and she got a hold of me first. She's like, what do I do? She's explaining the situation. I go, you got to call 911. You got to hang up and call 911. And so I go, I know I shouldn't hang up on you, but I can't. You got to call 911. She calls 911, and he does pass away. And all of a sudden, that begins a journey of 8 months I had no idea it was going to begin. Like, that's the beginning. It was my birthday. It will forever have changed my birthday. And we pack up a couple days later and head to Illinois she then asked me to do the funeral for my brother-in-law. And so I show up to Illinois and we do the funeral. We come home in February and we come back to our house in Minnesota. That's where we started Unlock Church. And we pull in and we see a geyser of water coming out of the ground, and it's our septic system. In Minnesota, you don't put them in the ground. They're above ground. They're called mound systems. Erupted. And that's where all your water from your house goes into these tanks. It goes mound. It blew up. Can't tell you why. No one knows why. It just blew up, and it looks like a geyser of pea water. Now, you know it's pea water because it's landing on 4 feet of snow, and that snow is now yellow. And, you're trying to teach these kids, don't eat yellow snow. And then it was, don't walk in yellow snow because it's a lot, okay? And we're like, what do you do? And they can't fix it. They give us a price tag that, hey, when roads open up, meaning tractors can drive down the road and dump trucks can come down the road, we'll fix it, but it's $15,000 to fix. And that mound was only a year old. Insurance didn't do anything for it. I'm condensing the story, but that's 2 events back to back within days. Just frustrating. You're dealing with the loss of a brother-in-law, and trying to help your sister through it, and you're dealing with now all of a sudden some physical is breaking down, and it's like, I don't know what to do. And sitting in it, no answers outside, you got this price tag, and you're trying to figure it out. Sometime after, like weeks later, that 4 feet of snow starts to melt. In 3 days, we melted 4 feet of snow because it got to 85, 90 degrees, and all the snow melted, but the ground has a 7-foot deep frost. And that doesn't melt near as fast. It takes months for that to thaw in Minnesota. Typically in June, by the end of June, the frost is gone. I'm just trying to paint how cold it is in Minnesota. I'm really making it like you should come, right? I'm selling it. It's real good. But all that water from the 4 feet of snow is trying to find the easiest place to get, and it all goes into the basement. Epic comes one morning and goes, Dad, there's a little bit of water downstairs. And I come down thinking that somebody spilled something. I walk down there. There's a whole lot of little water around. It's like it's above my ankle, but entire basement that way. And you can see it coming in. It's like a river in there just coming right through. It's like, wow, that's not good. Mark taught me that water stays outside the house. This is not good, guys. And so we're trying to vacuum it out. We had to rip up the floor. The church offices were there. We lost all kinds of equipment and all kinds of, it's just like, what is going on? At the same time of the basement flooding, we had a lab. His name was Vader. He's 8 years old. Everyone loved this dog. All of a sudden, he was 100% one day, ran 5 miles with me. Next day, not good. Within a day from the not good situation, he dies. And it's like out of nowhere, it's like, what just happened? So now you're starting to compound everything, right? A lot of this stuff, no big deal. Septic tanks probably do that stuff all the time. I don't know. I don't work in that business. I'm sure it does. Yeah, that's what you tell yourself to make it feel better. But you're starting to layer all this stuff on top of stuff, right? Now you're dealing with the lost brother-in-law, a dog. If you're a cat person, you don't get it because you like cats. You need Jesus too. I remember one time I made a joke about cats, and somebody, maybe you're here, I don't remember who did, but they pinned me on the landing up there and said I had problems because I didn't like cats. I have a problem. I don't like cats. I don't want to fix the problem. I know. Cats, and they just little tigers. If they were bigger, they'd eat you, right? Cats are great as kittens. When they become adults, they're like, what are you doing in my house? Why'd you come home? I like where the dog's like, I've missed you all day. Oh my gosh, this is the best thing I've ever happened to me today. This is so good. I love that. And somebody always says, you have emotional issues. You have a dependency on dogs. No, I just like joy around me. I don't want to fear my animal eating me while I'm sleeping. So, obviously, I'm a dog guy. Cats also, you can break them. I mean, Tyler's here. He broke one of my cats. We lived in the Reisinger's house at one point, and we came in with cats, and they were kind enough to let us put the cat in the house because it's not an outside cat. The cat's name is Morley. We're living in the basement. Tyler and his brothers put the cat in a pillowcase and like helicopter it and like badminton it, and I mean they broke the cat. The cat now walked around like, anyone there? Are they going to eat me? Like the cat got broken. Thank you, Tyler, for breaking that cat. The cat lived for 22 years. My children of 8 know that cat. And my wife talked about there were these 3 evil boys that broke that cat. That cat was never like that until these evil boys broke my cat. And I'm quoting, that is not stretching the truth. Bev and Tim, you probably should talk to Holly about that. She has some unresolved issues, forgiveness. You probably should call her. Not really, but that's how she explains it. My kids know that there are humans here responsible for that cat. And you've met one of them. Maybe you meet the others later, I don't know. And so I'm a dog guy, so it's pretty tragic. And you walk through for a couple weeks trying to now walk these kids through more grief and watching them do it differently. We a couple weeks later, we have our well system, sparks and fires coming out of a cable. Got to dig a 5-foot trench for 30 feet to try to fix it. And it's just all overwhelming, right? You're trying to do ministry. I'm a pastor. I got 8 kids. It just becomes overwhelming. How can I do this? And you want to get angry with God. Like, God, why did you do this? Why did you take my dog? Why did you take my brother-in-law? Holly's dad was diagnosed in this 8 months with brain cancer. They removed the tumor, but they're like, it's the bad cancer. He's only got months to live. And you're just going, it's just compounding. Then Revolution, our 4-year-old, Legend watches some movie with Jackie Chan, some old movie where Jackie Chan, if you don't know who he is, karate guy, right? Got massive skills. Well, Legend sees Jackie Chan doing all this stuff, and he goes to the trampoline immediately and goes, I'm going to do some Jackie Chan moves. And he's doing these like flips and karate kicks. And he's wise enough to tell everybody back up on the trampoline. So you got 8 kids on the trampoline, 1 great athlete doing some Jackie Chan moves, and he jumps up, does some weird karate kick. And our 4-year-old Revolution is on the edge of the trampoline, and when the trampoline bounces, he stumbles. And as Legend goes to do some weird kick, he kicks Revolution in the leg and snaps his femur. And Holly sends the kids in and goes, hey, I need you to come inspect our son. And they're going, hey, Mom thinks he broke his leg. So I come out. Whenever these things happen, I'm pretty chill. I do not get in an urgency mode. We've run camps all around here, right? And when we were in camps here, there are a lot of kids that just, they fake like things. So you're just like, you just don't want to do this. You're not wanting to do work. And so a lot of times I come up and go, stop being a pans. Usually I touch whatever they're saying is hurting. I did this at that moment. I was like, show me where it hurts. And so I was like, oh, it hurts right there. I was like, how's that feel? I was like, ah! I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, that's bad. I was like, let's have you stand up. And so he stands up, and when he stands, you hear the grinding of 2 bones. And I was like, oh, that's not good. I was like, yeah, I think it's probably broken. Somebody, the nurses in here, doctors in here, this guy. They're still all alive, okay? We have goals. Start with 8, put 8 to bed. We never look to see what faces are in bed. We just know we had 8 kids, 8 kids. Don't matter who it is, just say they're successful. Okay? Don't judge. If you got 8 kids, you can judge. But so he gets taken to the hospital, and the other kids in the house like, I'll come and help. So we send with two to the Icon and Store to go. And Holly calls back going, hey, it is really broken, and now they are throwing it into emergency surgery. And it's like a whirlwind of moments of like, what's happening? She's like, but they need to take him to the children's hospital, so got to go out on an ambulance, but I can't get on the ambulance right now because I have the 2 girls with me. And I'm like, well, you have the car to take all the kids, and which is normally not a big deal. I'll throw all the kids in the Jeep. Don't judge me there either. I rode in a station wagon and the seat faced the wrong way, and I wasn't buckled in, and I turned out okay. So, yeah, some people are saying okay. So I wasn't about to show up at the hospital doing that. I was like, broken kid, 8 kids or 7 kids, 6 kids in the car. No. So I was like, I can't come. And so we sorted out so Holly could get into the ambulance, go to Children's Hospital, and then they do emergency surgery on his femur. They were freaking out. And so then he got put into a full body cast. All the way down to his ankle, all the way up to his chest. They left 2 little holes for exit only. And so, you know, to take Revolution to the bathroom, he can only lay. And so it's like you get that on this end, you walk him in, you're like trying not to bump things, and you place him on the toilet to go to the bathroom. It was like very jarring to us as a family. And all of that inside 8 months. How many of you know that's a lot going? I don't care how you spin it. It's a lot going on, right? It's a lot. It's enough to make somebody just want to just crawl in a hole and go, I'm done. Especially when you do ministry, because you got people calling with their stuff. Hey, I need help here. I don't got money for this, and I need this, and we're running camp for the church, and we're doing all these things, and how many know you want to go, well, let me tell you my stuff. But that's the skin. That's selfishness rising up. That's not stretching the truth over your whole life. That God is sovereign in all those moments, and that you can, despite the circumstances, still smile and have joy. That my circumstances do not drive my future. They do not steer me where I'm going. My circumstances are just my circumstances. What drives my future is the direction I'm going in my relationship with Christ. And do I believe what I'm reading? And am I applying Jesus' principles? Those are the things that steer my life and feed my joy. How can I be up here with all this energy? It's not because I drink coffee. I don't like coffee. It's just I don't drink it. It's probably bad for you. And so this is all natural. Okay? Because I have my hope placed firmly in Jesus Christ. That He's sovereign. And so when I'm saying stretch the truth, how do you get through the tragedy in life? It's stretching the truth. It doesn't mean you can't cry. It doesn't mean you can't be frustrated. But you always come back to the truth and stretch your life that God is good. And He will work all things together for good for those that love Him, right? We often quote that and forget the last part, those that love Him. And then for the good part, we think it's going to be here and now and I get to experience all that. Sometimes the good He's speaking about is the next generation. It's a setup and you're part of the setup. But we get so selfish, we want it now. And God's like, I ain't done with you right now. I need this thing in your life to produce this thing in your life. So ease up. I know what I'm doing. Just run your race. Stop looking at everybody else. Because you look at everybody, I'd rather have what they're going through than what I'm going through. No, you wouldn't. Because you say that with no emotions attached to what you're seeing them go through. Right? That's the problem. It's an unemotional thought, but when they're going through it, they got the emotions, so it's tough. So here we go, Psalms chapter 62. Memorize this. This is, they think, from David during the days where his son is trying to overthrow his kingdom. David's king, one of his sons trying to take over the kingdom by trash-talking him, build a big army, and threaten to kill his dad. Talk about rough stuff. Here's what David writes in Psalms. There are 5 truths that we need to apply to our lives. I wait patiently before God, for my victory comes from Him. He alone is my rock and my salvation, my fortress where I will never be shaken. Some of you need to make that your life mantra. I will not be shaken. No matter what happens, I will not be shaken. All of the things I've taught, and there's a few more details in there of things broken. $100,000 in 8 months of things that have to be fixed, and you cannot not fix them. You can't leave the septic system the way it's going. You can't not fix the basement because it's too large of a family not to fix that. You can't not fix the well. There's just a lot of things you cannot not do. It's like, okay, God, I don't understand. Where's that coming from? How are you going to show up and show off? I will constantly trust you, but I got some questions for you. But He alone is my rock and my salvation, my fortress where I will never be shaken. I'm not going to be shaken, but I've got questions for you. I know you're going to show up, but when are you going to show up? Most of us quit the race before we get to the finish line, so you never see the finished product of what you just went through. So some of you got to lace up your shoes again, brush off the dirt because you benched yourself, and get back in the game of life. Amen. Because the enemy wants to take you out. He doesn't want you in the game of life. So he's going to knock you down. You just get back up. Like a 7-8. Oh, my enemies do not rejoice over me, for when I fall, I will get back up again. Don't tell me how many times you've fallen. Tell me how many times you've gotten up. It better be one more than you fell. Right? And I get it. I like all the amens. I love that. Because it's like, yeah, this is good stuff. But are you applying it? Are you applying it? So truth number 1 is wait quietly before God. For my victory comes from Him. Wait. We are not the waiting generation. None of us are. Yesterday, with trips with your boys, when you're traveling with them, you want to do some things special. So I took them to McDonald's. I think it's been 20 years since I've stepped a foot in McDonald's, and they probably have only had McDonald's once in their life. So it was special. It was like, we're going to have breakfast at McDonald's. You will never catch me eating anything other than breakfast at McDonald's. And so I took them. We were doing something special. And they were like, this is amazing. This is great. We sat in McDonald's. But you know what? For us to get, the only thing I'll eat at McDonald's is eggs. What is it? Sausage egg sandwich, right? That's it. That's all. Nowhere else. That's all I'm going to eat. Figure it's not so bad. I used to work at McDonald's, so I know that's a real egg. If you go to McDonald's and you get any egg that's folded over, disclaimer: that is not a real egg. Right. That comes in a bottle that they shake up and they put it out and they flip it. Not good. The egg that's round, they crack that thing open and they put it in there. Real. Okay. But we waited an hour and a half for that breakfast. I don't know what their problem was yesterday, but it was not fast. It was an hour. It was a long time. Long time. And then they gave us the wrong sandwiches, and I came out going, hey, we got the wrong sandwiches. That was happening to everybody. People were disgruntled. They were calling the coworkers all kinds of terms that I cannot repeat from the stage of a church. And I just sat there and watched it. I was like, well, one, I had nowhere to go because I was waiting for these two wonderful men on our leadership team to get done with their marathon. So I was like, I got nowhere to go, so I had a lot of patience. But I was watching. No one wants to wait. We want now. Right. We don't want to download. Oh, that download's going to take how long? 2 minutes? It's too long. But God's trying to say, hey, here's the truth. You got to stretch over your life. Wait quietly before God, for the victory comes from Him. That means He determines when. So you lost somebody, and that pain's still there for you, and you wonder why. You see, patiently wait. But there's like, I'm going to put a little. Tell somebody you're hurting. You're not supposed to do life alone. So when you're hurting, you're having a bad day, call somebody. I'm having a bad day. My joy's not robbed, but I'm having a bad day today. I'm not defined by this. I'm stretching the truth of God's sovereignty, but I just need to tell somebody. Verse 3, so many enemies against one man, all of them trying to kill me. To them, I'm just a broken down wall or a tottering fence. They plan to topple me from the highest position. They delight in telling lies about me. They praise me to my face, but they curse me in their hearts. And he's trying to say, hey, people are trying to rob me of my joy and my peace. You feel like you've got somebody in your life, a coworker that's doing that? Don't let them do it. You go back to truth number 1. I'm going to wait quietly before God because the victory comes from Him. Verse Epic, how we doing? You winning? Sweet. You have skills, man. Verse 5, let all that I am wait quietly before God, for my hope is in him. I just like that how he repeats it again. It's just like, I got to drill this in. And then he goes, he alone is my rock and my salvation, my fortress where I will not be shaken. My victory and honor comes from God alone. My refuge, a rock where my enemy cannot reach me. If you're not getting alone with Jesus on your own and you're waiting for Mark to teach something on Sunday that you need, you are missing it. It's not about what you get out of church, it's what you bring to church. We got it all backwards. We go, I didn't really like the worship today. That guest speaker today, he talked too fast. I didn't get much out of it. He had long hair. Is that really cool for a pastor to be like that? Is he really 45? God, I didn't get much out of it today. I think God's going, well, how about you ask me? God's saying, why don't you ask me? Did I get something out of it today? Did you? Because I think sometimes we come in here and we're just waiting for God to feed us, and God's like, no, I want you to worship me. I want you to give me worth today. I want you to, despite the circumstances, I want you to say, I'm the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, and the victory comes through me. Amen. So the question isn't, God, I didn't get much out of that today. It should be, God, how did I do today in church? Amen. How did I do today? Did you feel honored by me? Did you see me? I'm taking a step of faith today. I gave for the first time. I gave my tithes and offering today. I'm trusting you now. God, how do I do today? Stop saying I didn't get much out of today. You got to show up and go, what? I'm going to see a need, meet a need with somebody today. Because I know you got a need, but so does somebody else. And you're just waiting for somebody to see your needs. It's like, help me. You got it way wrong. What happens is when you see a need and meet a need, you know what happens along that journey? Your need gets met. It is a little bit of a mystery. It's just the way God works. So truth number 2 that we need to tattoo to our brains, put in the DNA, my victory and honor comes from God alone, not by job promotions, not by wealth, not by social media status, not by if I have a girlfriend or boyfriend or married or not married, none of those. My victory comes from God and God alone. Oh my people, verse 8 I believe we're on, oh my people, trust in him all the time. Pour your heart to him, for God is our refuge. Truth number 3 is that we got to pour our cries out to God. What are you up to, God? Common people, we are worthless as a puff of wind. And the powerful are not what they appear to be. If we weigh them on a scale, together they are lighter than the breath of air, meaning we give credit to too many people instead of the God. Like you're letting your joy be defined if somebody liked a post, or they friended you back, or your coworker commented, oh, you got your hair cut. You got to fix yourself because that's not healthy. Who we are, it comes from God and being known by him. Stop giving so much weight to people. Don't make your living by extortion or put your hope in stealing. And if your wealth increases, don't make it the center of your life. Truth number 2 is when you get successful, when you got a lot of money, don't go, look what I did. It's look at what God did with what I had. But here's the problem. You'll look at the zeros you have behind yours and you go, why do they got more zeros? The truth is because Jesus said because you can only handle that many zeros. We don't like that. We want all the zeros. But God's like, if I gave you all the zeros, you wouldn't trust me. He gives to people according to what they can handle and manage. So if you want more, this is Jesus Principle 101 right here. Be faithful with the few things. That was a strategy when we moved here in Ohio. Mark hired us, and we go into a tiny room upstairs. It was graffitied. It was not a very cute room. It was graffitied all over. Remember that room, Mark, with couches everywhere? I came in, I was like, is it okay if I paint this and throw things away? And I remember my prayer was, we were cleaning it up. I was like, God, I'm going to be faithful with the few. I think there was like 12 students at the time here when we first started. I was like, I'm going to be faithful with those 12. I'm going to treat them like it's 100. And then when we got to 100, I'm going to treat them like it's 200. It was always being faithful. The only reason it grew around here wasn't because I'm talented or because of what we did. It was because God was constantly bringing increase, and we were managing it well. Those that have money that you see your family members are wealthy is because they manage it well. You want more money? Stop buying stuff you can't afford. It's that simple. It's not that hard. I mean, it's hard to do. It's just, I learned that from Tim. Tim taught me that when I was here. He's like, stop buying things you can't afford. I was like, all right, that's a good point. It took a couple years to settle in. But now that's kind of the thing when we're at church. We're like, we're not going to debt as a church. We want more money to do more ministry. If we get into debt, we gotta pay bills. We can't help people. We want to help people. Holly and I go, well, as a church, we want to help people. We can sell our house. We can do more ministry. Let's do that so that we can keep helping more people. And when we get successful in ministry and people come to church, it's not because of us. It's because we've managed what God's given us well. We're about to wrap this up. God has spoken plainly, and I have heard it many times. Power, O God, belongs to you. Unfailing love, O Lord, is yours. Surely you repay all people according to what they have done. You reap what you sow. This is David saying, justice comes from God, not you. But we want to control the justice. Well, why did they seem to be successful and I'm struggling? You don't think I thought that a couple times in the last 8 months? God, I'm a pastor. I've got a church. I got 8 kids. Why me? Why not the drug dealer? Why aren't you allowing those things to go on in his life? And it's like, you got to come back to this. No, the truth is, and spread it over your life. Surely God has justice for everybody, and he's working a plan in everyone's life. Stay in your lane. Stay in your lane and let God do what he wants to do in your life. And I promise you, when you get a moment like I've gotten the last 2 days, you'll look back and look at what God's done, and you go, I could never have done that in my life. I couldn't have landed the job out here on my own. I didn't have the talent. Mark wasn't looking for a guy that was a skater, surfer guy. He was looking for a guy that could build stuff. And God's like, no, Mark, I got a different idea for you, man. I want you to disciple him. I want you to pour into that young man because I have plans for him that are going to be past Ohio. But I need him here for 8 years, and I need him to get what you have, Mark, into him. So be patient with Scott, Mark. Love that guy unconditionally. When he does dumb things, encourage him. When he makes unwise decisions, teach him what he should have done, but always love him. And Mark always loved me and still loves me. He's always been a part of what we do because he was faithful. He didn't take a guy and go, oh, he doesn't look the part. He's like, I can build something with this guy. Be faithful where you're at. Let the justice be God's and God's alone, not yours. Don't ever pray that someone gets it in a negative way. That's not Jesus' principles. That's not Jesus' quality. That's so far from what Jesus is. That's not up to you. You pray for those people and you keep your head down and you say, God, give me a glimpse of eternity with my life. It's okay to pray that. The last 8 months, I've prayed that a lot. I've had moments where I've been real low. I've wanted to quit. I always tell myself I can quit tomorrow, not today. Tomorrow always comes. So I'm always quitting tomorrow, but never today. So I never quit. But so I've had those moments, real moments. But I just said, God, give me the glimpse behind the curtains of eternity. What are you doing? Because if you're doing something, okay, if this is the rest of my life of just one event after another, just beating me down, beating Holly down, beating our kids down, if that's all I got to walk through all those things, okay. But let me see why. And so when our basement flooded, we hired a guy to come in and fix the basement. That jackhammer, the whole thing, put a French drain down. It was a long process. And we fed the guys that were doing it. And when we were feeding them, they just started sharing. My daughters went to the hospital last night for anxiety and depression. And I was like, wow, what's going on? We talked with them. And I said, you know what? You need to get into our student ministry. And so they're like, what is it? And we have a conversation about religion. And he's like, I'm deconstructing my faith. And I was like, that's cool as long as you reconstruct it with truth. Like, cool if you're on a journey of deconstructing. I know it's popular stuff right now. Deconstruct your faith. Great. Better reconstruct it, though, with the right stuff. Sounds like you got some junk in there that you're trying to get out. That's cool. Come to Mark and say, hey, I'm trying to figure out what's the real truth. Figure it out. And so I said, get them to student ministry. They go, and then they end up at the camp that we're holding on our property. With all the broken stuff going on, we still had camp on our property. And we just said, don't play over there. That's poop water. The losing teams had to go over there, actually. But we still did the camp, and those 2 girls came to camp that were in the hospital. They came to camp. And on Wednesday, we did a salvation teaching out there, and they lifted their hands and gave their life to Christ and haven't missed Wednesday really very much, and it's been spectacular. And in that moment, I just broke down. I was like, what? had my basement not flooded, those girls wouldn't be at the camp and give their life to Christ, and forever their eternity changed for them. Right? Like, we get all wrapped up in selfish stuff going, oh, I don't want that to happen. I don't want my basement to flood. I don't want what's going on to happen. But if it's impacting the kingdom of God for good, and we're pushing back the kingdom of darkness, sign me up. It's not about how much my bank account holds or how many cars I got or how famous I am. It's how much of the enemy's ground we're taking. And that's what I love about this church. You're taking ground. Let's pray. Jesus, thank you for this amazing place. Thank you for Mark and Jamie and the leadership team here. I ask you to give them wisdom beyond their years. Give them energy like a 16-year-old, that they can just keep going like the Energizer Bunny to continue to do the great work. May this church be unified in all purposes and all mission. That this church would continue to be a light in the darkness in the middle of cornfields. May people find refuge in you. As people have their stories, I'm aware of some of those things in here. Those that have faced unthinkable things. I ask that today they would begin to stretch the truth across their life. That they would find the truth that speaks to their thing and stretch it across their entire life. That you are good, that you are sovereign. You've not forgotten about any one of us. And the hope lies in you and you alone, God. Thank you for this church, what it means for my family, and Unlock Church in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I thank you. You brought me and my wife out to here. Thank you for what you do. You are good, and we love you. In your name, amen. Thank you, everybody. You are awesome. That's it, right, Mark? That's all, folks. Thanks for enjoying the show today. I will not be back. Have a good one.